Hey friend, are you aware of the new type of adoption that exists today? It is called agency-assisted adoption. In today's episode, we are going to talk about agency-assisted adoption, how it differs from a full-service agency adoption, and how you can use it in conjunction with self-matching in order to save yourself money in your adoption process. Before we dive into the episode, let me take just a minute to introduce myself in case we haven't met yet. My name is Amanda, and I'm an adoptive mom on a mission to help reduce the overwhelm and unnecessary expense in the adoption process. I do this by giving you free content like this that walks you through things step by step, as well as through amazing courses and profile creation services that are designed to walk you through each step of the adoption process and help you create and share your adoption profile to help you save time and money in your adoption journey. If you haven't already done so, I really would appreciate it if you would take just a minute to subscribe to the YouTube channel. All you have to do is hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, then they'll let you know each time I release a new episode. But it really does help the YouTube algorithm know to serve my content when people search for things related to adoption, which helps me. So it's just a little way that you can give back if you're finding value in this free content. Okay? Thank you so much. All right. So now let's dive into this. I am so excited. And when I am excited, I tend to talk with my hands a little bit more. So give some grace for that right up front. Okay. So we have talked till I am quite literally blue in the face about the 9 different ways you can adopt a child on this channel, on this podcast, on the blog, and in the Facebook group. By the way, if you haven't joined the free Facebook group, head on over to Facebook and check out the My Adoption Coach Facebook group. But I'm going to give you just a brief overview of what those 9 different ways are now to adopt a child, because you may be new to adoption. And if you're new to adoption, my friend, you need to check out the Finding Your Perfect Adoption Pathway. Finding Your Perfect Adoption Pathway is designed to help you choose what type of adoption is right for you in less than 4 hours and for less than $30. So you need to check it out. I mean it when I say I'm here to help you every step of the way and make it super approachable and affordable and friendly. Okay. So I'm going to give you an overview of the 9 different types of adoption, but I'm not going to give you a full deep dive in that. If you need that, there's tons of other blog posts that you can go back and read, YouTube videos that you can watch, or you can just head on over to myadoptioncoach.com/pathway and check out that program to make your decision in under 4 hours. Okay. All right. And I should also let you know that my dog's in the background because it's going to storm here in a few minutes, but this is my time I could record the video for you. So give a little grace and patience if you see Sydney move around in the background. Okay, so the very first type of adoption would be international adoption. That's where you're adopting a child from another country, right, that is eligible for adoption. The second type of adoption would be foster care adoption. That is where you're adopting a child from your state through a state agency or a government body that is eligible for adoption. The third type of adoption is surrogacy. In certain states, surrogacy is considered adoption just based upon the way the adoption law is written there. The fourth type of adoption would be embryo adoption. This is where you are adopting someone else's genetic material to either carry yourself to term to produce a healthy pregnancy, or working potentially with a surrogate to carry that genetic material. There's all types of amazing embryo adoption resources out there, by the way. There are specific grants for it. There are specific nonprofits that actually are the guardians of these embryos that would be the body that you would work with to adopt from. That would be like Nightlight Christian Adoptions, the National Embryo Donation Center. And believe it or not, your fertility doctor may also have embryos that you can adopt. So that's worth looking into as well. My dog's over here wanting pets now, so we're going to roll with it, my friend. Okay, the fifth type of adoption that we're going to talk about would be working with an adoption consultant. Now, an adoption consultant also sometimes is called a facilitator or a mediator. Like there's a couple of different terms that you may hear based upon, honestly, your particular area that you're in. But an adoption consultant's job is to share your profile and your intention to adopt with several different agencies, basically just to help you network, okay? They're going to get paid a fee from you in order to present your profile to these other agencies and such so that you have more opportunities. Theoretically, it's to help you match faster. Whether that happens or not, I don't know. You'll have to vet each one individually to make that determination. But that is a type of adoption that you can consider. The sixth would be actually using an adoption attorney. Now, it may sound a little tricky and confusing because you have to use an adoption attorney in order to finalize your adoption. So you're like, how do you use an adoption attorney to adopt from? What's different there? Here in this type of adoption, you would actually be using the attorney to actually match your adoption. So sometimes attorneys will deploy an adoption profile expert like yours truly to help create profiles and share them through Google ads or Facebook ads and things of that nature. But other times adoption attorneys will actually have expectant parents that reach out to them and they'll match you that way. So it's possible to match with adoption attorneys that way. Okay. The next type of adoption, this is really where we're going to start kind of parsing through self-matching, agency assisted, and full service agency between the three and really what are the differences. Okay. So next, let's talk about an full service agency so that it helps you understand kind of the differences between the three. So a full service adoption agency is really going to work both not only with you from start to finish, but also from the expectant parent's perspective from start to finish. So what is really important to understand here is that a full service agency is going to give you recommendations on each step of the process, right? So when it comes to the home study, when it comes to creating your profile, sharing your profile, they're going to do all of those things on your behalf. But then from an expectant parent's perspective, they're going to reach out to them. They're going to connect with them. They're going to determine what type of services that they need throughout their adoption journey. And those services could include things like maybe they need mental health services to process the grief that they're going through. Maybe they need housing services and they need to be set up with government services in order to support them with housing or with food stamps or with Medicaid or Medicare, those types of things. And so they're really going to help them get the services that they need. But most agencies, not all, most agencies will also help them prepare for their next stage after baby is born. So they will help them create really kind of their life plan, if you will, and then help them with the services that they need to create, to really fulfill that plan. Now, of course, they're going to do this in bounds with the law. So they're going to work and understand with an adoption attorney, what are the legal, requirements or restrictions in those states. How much housing support can you provide? How much living support can you provide? What are the other types of ways that they can help better their life after baby is born? Now, these are often presented as options, right? As well as options on services that will help them parent. And this is, while can be seen as controversial, this really is the role of the agency in this, is to provide options for placing the baby and options for not placing the baby so that the expectant parents can thrive following the birth of the child. And that really is, quite honestly, where a lot of the investment in the agency adoption model can go if your agency is really highly reputable. Other agencies have a lot of incremental fees and things that they don't give you a lot of visibility to, which quite honestly has been a main reason why self-matching adoption came about, right? So in a self-matching adoption, really the idea is that you have gone on your own to find all of the relevant adoption professionals that you need, right? You have hired an adoption attorney to understand the law in your state. You work through your adoption home study. Then you've worked with an adoption profile expert to create and share your profile in order to teach you how to do those things, if that's what you want to do. Then you've gone out and made the match, right, with an expectant family. Maybe you met them through a friend of a friend. Maybe you met them through a Google ad. Maybe you met them through a Facebook group. Maybe you met them through a flyer on a laundromat wall. All of those are real examples of my clients that I've coached through the self-matching process. But there's always been this opportunity space at that point, once you've matched, on how do you really support your expected family in the way that they need to give them the services and the support that they need, not only from a financial perspective, but also from a mental health perspective. That has been honestly the kind of the biggest downfall in self-matching. But as of recently, the agency assisted portion of coming in and focusing on those services pieces after you've partnered with these other professionals have really been a way that my clients have been providing the type of support that they want to give to their expectant family to make sure that they're going to thrive after placement, or to make sure that they have options to thrive if they don't place, has been a way that you can really kind of overcome some of the challenges that exist in self-matching. This, I think, is a really interesting opportunity that the agency-assisted adoptions are really filling in the overall process of private adoption. And really what it is, it's giving the control back to the hopeful adoptive families from a budgeting perspective. It is giving you the option to go out and find the right professionals that fit within your budget, based upon your own timeline too, quite honestly, so that you can support your expectant families in the right way. So let's break that down a little bit more. I shared a lot there that may be a little confusing. So a lot of agencies, when you're working with a full service agency, are going to have some sort of big upfront cost, right? And in that big upfront cost, they're going to say, you have to pay, a $5,000 fee to begin to work with us. Right? And that's just a fee, mind you. That fee typically doesn't cover anything else. Sometimes they'll call it an application fee. Sometimes they'll just call it a fee, like what's the word? Like an introduction fee. I've seen in a few packets as of late. I'm like, what does an introduction fee mean? It basically means it's just a fee to work with them, or for the honor or privilege of working with them. So if you are starting to work with them, you're going to have to pay that fee up front. Versus if you are working with an adoption attorney, most of them don't require you to spend very much to get started. Some of them require a couple $100s of a retainer so that they can create an agency client, a client attorney relationship there, so that they can actually legally be your attorney. But most of them aren't going to require much money at all to get started. And instead, you're going to use that money towards your home study, right? Because your home study is the next thing that you really have to invest with, which, by the way, is a fee that you have with an adoption agency as well. So you've already paid the adoption agency whatever fee it starts out with, right? And then you have to pay the home study fee, which you're still going to be paying to your adoption home study provider regardless. Then when you kind of move through the process, again, comparing full service agency versus a self-match with agency assisted, the next thing you're going to be doing, which is oftentimes done in concurrent with your adoption home study, because you want your adoption home study to be maximized, right? Your adoption home study in most states is only good for 1 year. So the instant your home study approved, you want to be sharing your adoption profile so that you can maximize the length of time for your home study, right? So you are getting your home study approved. The next step you're going to have to do is create your adoption profile. Now, with an adoption agency, they're oftentimes going to have a fee for those adoption profiles that are the creation services, right? And in their creation services, depending upon the agency, that's going to run you $10,000 to $15,000. Now, if you are self-matching and you want to create your adoption profile with an expert that, guides you through the process, you can do that for around $3,000 or less, depending upon what you want to do versus what you want me to do, right? So there's a huge cost savings there, about, call it $7,000 on the low end from that. Okay, so the next step in the process is you're going to be actually sharing your adoption profile, right? Now, if you're working with an adoption agency, they're going to be charging you an advertising fee, okay? What's important to know about this advertising fee, aside from the amount, so it ranges anywhere from 10 to 15, we've even seen it as high as $20,000. But in that fee that you're paying them, they are actually advertising their agency because they are trying to attract expectant parents in to match with, right? And so they're talking to people about what the benefits of placing a child for adoption with their agency versus your family. Now, this is a huge difference in the self-matching journey, okay? In self-matching, you are paying the budget you set directly to the Facebooks, the Googles, the whomever, however you plan to share it. You are paying that fee directly to them to see your profile. That is the biggest point of difference when it comes to this step, if you will, in agency adoption versus self-matching adoption. And it really comes down to, what do you feel comfortable with, right? Do you want to share, you want to spend your dollars into the agency being shared because you need their expertise? And listen, they have expertise. They have a lot of expertise. They've done this for years. Likely this is probably your first time through this, right? Which is why you need help from someone else to teach you the process and what to do. Or instead of sharing their services, do you want the money that you're spending in sharing your adoption profile to be directed towards you? That is the big difference there, my friend. Now, historically, this has been the point at which you would match with an expectant parent, right? So either the agency has brought you someone and that you've both mutually agreed, the expectant family and the hopeful adoptive family have agreed that this is the match and that this is where you want to, continue on. Or if you're self-matching, you're going to have conversations, you're going to do all of that kind of vetting, if you will, yourself, right? And then you're going to talk with an adoption attorney. Now, what gets often lost between a full service agency in this step versus a self-matching agency in this step is that the agency is sharing services with the expectant family to give them options on how they can parent. So they're giving them services like food stamps, government housing, medical services or medical, like Medicaid and Medicare. I never get that right, which one's which. But they're giving those services to them and saying, if you choose to parent, here's a path to parent. If you choose not to parent, here's your path for not parenting, but yet having support services to fulfill the type of life that you want, right? They're also giving them mental health services to help them make the decision of placing a child for adoption, being confident in that decision and really wanting to see that decision all the way through, and then having the mental health resources to deal with the grief both during and after the process. Now, when you're self-matching, historically, that's not been something that has happened unless the hopeful adoptive family has gone out and sought a grief counselor. They've gone out and figured out how to, set up those services or how to teach the expectant family to go and set up those services. That's really been where the main disconnect, and quite honestly, where self-matching gets a really bad name with the adoption community as a result. But that is where agency-assisted adoption comes in. You can pay the agency, or some agencies, not all, some agencies, a fee to come in and do that portion of the support work. So if you were matching with an agency, you've already paid them for that, right? It's wrapped into one of those fees, or it's a separate fee, again, because every agency is different. But if you're self-matching, and you want the agency to step in and help with mental health resources, to help with, housing or medical or financial resources, they can step in and help to do that for a reduced fee. Now, I've seen this fee, depending upon the body that's provided this service, when you are self-matching, be anywhere from $3,000 to $7,000. Now, some agencies, on the other hand, the full service agencies, if they call it out, most of the times they don't, but if they call it out, it's somewhere between $10,000 to $15,000, right? It just really depends upon each different type of agency out there, because there are so many different, and there is no one specific governing body or something that you have to use or to adhere to for how you break out your fees. And so that is where agency-assisted adoption is a really interesting way to come alongside self-matching adoption and provide the types of services that really do help expectant parents thrive and be confident in their decision, which quite honestly is a number one reason why self-matching adoptions end up not going through, is because the actual support that is needed for expectant parents has not been there. So I think I've been a little bit on my soapbox there on the differences between full service agency and agency assisted adoption when you use it in conjunction with self-matching adoption. It is a little bit tricky. It is a new and different space. It is something we are going to be talking a lot about in the Facebook group. So if you haven't joined us over there, please do check it out. But remember, my friend, this type of adoption is totally possible, and it is possible to save yourself money. Now, the trick is you have to understand how to navigate it. And that is why you need to work with an adoption coach that is there in your corner every step of the way to help you through it. So I hope you found this episode incredibly valuable. If you have, I really would appreciate it if you'd share it with a friend, if you'd go share it in one of those Facebook groups, but most importantly, if you would take action from it. My goal and my desire in life is to help reduce the overwhelm and unnecessary expense in your adoption journey. And remember, I'm here with you every step of the way. I'll see you soon, friend.